This is the snake that's left a 17-year-old in hospital. Last night, Judy Martin from Hunter Reptile Rescue got a call she's not likely to forget.
We got the phone call about 6 o'clock last night to say that they needed help identifying a snake out at Curry Hospital.
What Judy and her husband Barry found was a young female inland taipan, small but deadly.
She is the world's deadliest terrestrial snake in toxicity.
The boy on the receiving end of the bite was given a generic anti-venom and transferred to the Calvary Mater Hospital.
Bite from an inland taipan, like any taipans, will cause problems with clotting, but more important, neurotoxicity, which is causing paralysis in the patient.
He's now in a stable condition in intensive care, but is expected to make a full recovery.
In Australia, we have very few snakebite deaths, and this snake certainly hasn't been associated with death.
I think it would need to be provoked. This species isn't known to be quite a defensive species.
But the question remains as to how the boy came in contact with the deadly creature, which is only found in remote, arid parts of the country.
The inland taipan is not your average pet snake. Owning one requires strict licensing, and getting your hands on one can be even more difficult, with authorised breeders hard to find.
And there wouldn't be many people that would keep the inland taipan. She's on the same licence as an eastern brown. So, yeah, we'd like to know where she come from.
There is no possibility that a 17-year-old could hold a licence?
No way. No way.
The Office of Environment and Heritage is investigating. Kath Landers, NBN News.
It's the latest in a long list of reports on transport and the Newcastle rail line. But according to the Hunter Business Chamber, this one is different. While previous studies have suggested changes costing $500 million or more, this plan is priced at $110 million. It includes the creation of a railway station and bus interchange on the western side of Stewart Avenue, with trains terminating there, all while improving pedestrian and vehicular access between the CBD and the harbour. A 3-track Newcastle Central station and bus interchange would be built on rail land behind the store, which the Chamber says would avoid land acquisitions of $116 million.
Doing an analysis of the myriad of reports which have been prepared over the last several years, analysing those and trying to pull those apart and come up with something which is, we think, realistic and viable and cost within the budget constraints that we face today.
Fast, free and frequent hop-on, hop-off buses would come every 4 minutes, with 2 main routes delivering passengers from the station to areas including the East End and Hamilton in red and Bar Beach and the Junction in blue.
Young people, for example, coming down from Maitland and beyond going to the beach. It will take them to the new Newcastle Central Station. They'll quickly jump on a bus which will drop them at the door, maybe not just Newcastle Beach, but they'll have the option of Nobbies, Newcastle, Bar Beach, Merriweather. So it's enhancing their options.
The more cost-effective report's been welcomed by Newcastle MP Tim Owen, who's in favour of an interchange in Newcastle West.
A high-frequency system that allows people to get further than they were able to get on the current heavy rail system, whether that's trolley buses or whether that's light rail. I have to leave that to the experts.
The Chamber says the rail line into the CBD would be transformed into a green pedestrian corridor, removing what it describes as the heavy rail line barrier, infrastructure constraints and level crossing headaches. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News. A long overdue announcement which came today care of Heritage Minister Robin Parker. Built between 1828 and 1829, the finely crafted City Hall and stunning Civic Theatre were finally both heritage listed, protecting the Newcastle icons for future generations.
Heritage listing on the State Heritage Register means that the building has to be preserved. There is advice available and also funding available, so I'm sure Newcastle City Council will be knocking on my door.
You didn't have to look far to see crumbling sandstone during the formalities today, with repairs and restorations needed after decades of weathering and deterioration. The Minister admits heritage funding is limited and rather meagre, but Newcastle Council says any amount will help, with both buildings needing constant maintenance. Recent repairs on the northeast side of City Hall cost more than $2 million.
These are two iconic buildings, not only for Newcastle, but they're iconic buildings throughout Australia. I mean, this is a wonderful City Hall we have, and the Civic Theatre we all know is just a magnificent building. So I very much welcome the heritage listing.
Just a hop, skip and jump from the Civic Theatre, a large corner block is expected to soon be cleared for future development. It currently includes the old Civic Hotel, which was destroyed by fire in 2009. While the former Newcastle Museum is now set to be transformed into 47 serviced apartments since being sold by Con Constantine earlier this year. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Yeah, mate, it's unreal. You know, it's a dream come true. If you'd sort of told me 12 months ago that I'd be a part of this, I probably wouldn't have believed you. So it's just unreal.
Merewether captain Simon Moore isn't worried about his team's title defence. Far from it. The steely-faced batsman has plenty of firepower to call on after snaring speedster Mark Cameron.
He'd be the quickest bowler in the comp, considerably, I'd say, and he's a good fella. He's played a lot of first-class cricket, and like I said, played for Australia.
After beating Wallsend in the grand final last year, Merewether has rubbed salt into the wound, acquiring the services of former Tigers skipper David Sellop.
Things didn't work out there, for him, and it was well publicised, but it's a new start for him, and I'm sure he's going to look to prove a point, and that'll be good for us.
We've had a few dramas in the off-season. There was a change in captaincy, of course, and that created a bit of drama within the playing ranks, but we've sorted all that out now, and we're looking pretty good for the year.
New Tigers captain Brett Jackson is confident they can regroup.
If we're there or thereabouts come March, we could give it a good crack.
The Lions, meanwhile, have several clubs breathing down their neck.
Can you win the GF this year?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, why not? Mate, I'm hoping to be in the 4. I think we should be in the 4 with the team we got.
Paddy Kilmurray, NBN News. Adam Welsh owes his life to his dad. At the tender age of 1, Adam suffered renal failure and was placed on dialysis. His only chance of survival, a kidney transplant.
I got a phone call at 1 o'clock in the morning saying, you better get in here because I don't think you'll make it. One day we had a healthy little baby boy, and the next day he was being flown to the Children's Hospital in a helicopter. So, yeah, huge shock for all of us.
His father's kidney was a match, and a successful transplant took place. Now, Adam is a Transplant Games star. He claimed 4 gold medals at the 2010 event in Canberra, and is looking to add to his tally in a variety of sports next week.
10-pin bowling, athletics, cycling and some other swimming sports as well.
The Transplant Games has given transplant recipients an opportunity to compete and show how good a life they can have.
There's up to about 1,000 people participating in the Transplant Games, about 400 transplant recipient athletes from the age of 3 to 79. They've all had life-saving organ transplants, heart transplants, liver transplants, lung, kidney transplants.
Paddy Kilmurray, NBN News.
A mangled swing set and debris is all that remains at the scene of a domestic dispute which took a horrifying turn. 29-year-old Boz William Smith died last night after his car slammed into a tree in the front yard of his ex-partner's home in Blackwells Park.
It's clear from the evidence thus far that that the driver has deliberately driven into the yard.
Police were called to the home at around 10 o'clock after the pair's argument escalated.
I could hear screaming and carrying on.
When they arrived, Smith got back in his car and sped away. Officers gave chase.
Police assumed that vehicle was stopping. However, simultaneously it completed a U-turn.
Onlookers say just 100 metres up the road, the 29-year-old driver snapped and sped back towards the house.
He was going probably about 100 kilometres an hour and just slammed straight into the house, no brakes, nothing.
Neighbours who watched on in horror say it's incredible no one else was killed. Several children and police officers were in the front yard when the car came careering through. Smith's 32-year-old ex-partner was struck in the process but escaped with only minor injuries. It's believed Smith was the father of 3 of her children who narrowly escaped being hit by the car.
It's a miracle that no one else was killed in this incident.
Police have launched a critical incident investigation. Meanwhile, the woman was released from John Hunter Hospital early this afternoon. Stephanie Jeans, NBN News. Tucked away behind John Hunter Hospital, this building is hoping to transform Newcastle from the former Steel City to the Heel City. Today, the Hunter Medical Research Institute's new $90 million home became reason to celebrate. A 10-year journey, the facility has made the region a world leader in clinical trials and the envy of researchers abroad.
We have a unique environment here in the Hunter at HMRI where we have the closeness to the health system, to the university system, where HMRI is the spider in a net.
The build alone poured $186 million into the region's economy and now complete will inject $76 million annually. But the HMRI isn't an organisation to rest on its laurels and is now pushing its next piece of the research puzzle, a $100 million cancer and mental health research facility to be built next door to the Mater Hospital.
For far too long, in my view, the Hunter and Newcastle have been shortchanged. We need to take a leap forward.
All that's needed is the money, a message that politicians today heard loud and clear. And you're ready to put that pressure on to those levels of government?
Having completed this one, yes.
Christy Reading, NBN News.
"21-year-old Beau Pritchard died in a truck accident just over a year ago. He was on peacekeeping duties in East Timor, but despite his service, he won't be acknowledged on the Roll of Honour at the Australian War Memorial.
It's just not right.
Beau's father, Peter, is still trying to get over his son's death. He says the 48 Aussies who have died in peacekeeping duties deserve better.
Why can't they respect our kids when they're being killed?
At the time the Australian War Memorial was opened, there was no concept of peacekeeping or humanitarian assistance. So that means soldiers that are killed in those type of missions are not included in the Roll of Honour. Instead, they are named in the Remembrance Book, which was created in 2007. It honours those who have died on non-war-like duties.
All they've got is a book locked away in a cabinet, and you've got to go and ask for permission to actually have a look in that book.
The Council of the Australian War Memorial say it's committed to ensuring all servicemen and women are not forgotten, regarding all honour rolls as equally significant. Mr Pritchard has now backed a nationwide campaign called Change.org petition, pushing for equality in service and equality in death. If Beau was included on the Roll of Honour, that would make you feel better?
That would be a good start.
Amy Ziniak, NBN News. It all started in 2003. Kurri Kurri wanted something unique to attract more tourists, so they came up with the very colourful idea of painting murals. Now there are more than 50.
There is a town in Tasmania that has more than 70 murals. That's why we claim to be Australia's largest mainland mural town.
Being the town's mascot, the three kookaburras were the first to start the trend, while this mural is from a famous photograph taken during bushfires in Cessnock in 2002.
It was even published worldwide, including in the London Times. It's quite a famous photo, and the artist sort of duplicated that and painted it onto the rear wall of the hotel.
And there are plans to paint even more. So are we going to get enough to beat the Tasmanian guys?
Oh yes, we'd love to beat the Tasmanians, yeah.
All designs are now featured in a new DVD and book, including a story on their history. Amy Ziniak, NBN News.
What it does in terms for the young kids in our region, it certainly inspires them that they can go on and be
you know, as great a players as they ever want to be.
Played for New South Wales the last couple of seasons, and every year that we've been beaten it hurts, and I guess it just makes you want to win more. So yeah, definitely keen to get back in the sky blue colour next year and get a series up on the Queenslanders.
Because I've always wanted to play abroad. To be fair, it wasn't Australia. It was wasn't my first destination when I was younger. But you know, it's a nice destination, and it's an up and coming football nation.
He's the final piece of the puzzle for Gary Van Egmond, and what a perfect fit, slotting in next to former teammate Michael Bridges. Did you ever think as a 16-year-old you'd be slotting in next to him in the team photo on the other side of the world?
Didn't actually. We played together at England under-18s as well, so it's come around again, isn't it? So it's nice.
It's no secret what the former international will bring to the Jets lineup.
Bit of experience. They say they like to play with a number 9, and I'm a typical number 9, so just to help along the way.
Round 1 against Adelaide on the cards.
I hope so. That's what we spoke about today, and trying to build up for that game, you know. So fingers crossed everything will go to plan.
Our challenge will be to ensure we don't push him too early, too hard, and make sure we get the best out of him.
And there's no hiding what he wants to achieve.
Hopefully win some trophies. You know, I managed to do that throughout my career, from beginning to now.
That's music to his teammates' ears.
Newcastle should be over the moon. It's not every day you get a player of this ilk that comes to our shores and plays for our club.
A smooth transition for the family, even if there were a few slip-ups. Paddy Kilmurray, NBN News.
These days, Warren Carney is a force to be reckoned with on the bowling green.
Got to put it close, mate.
Back in 2008, he was diagnosed with myelodysplastic syndrome. A transplant was his only chance of survival.
There were two options. One, not have it and not be here. Two, have a bone marrow transplant. So I took the bone marrow transplant, and 3.5 years on, I'm still here.
He has his brother Gary to thank for his Transplant Games gold medal, but clearly others were there to help as well.
I tell everybody it was quite easy. My wife tells me, no, it wasn't, especially when she was sitting by my side 12 hours a day in St Vincent's for a month.
At Glendale, they're getting in some last-minute training before a hectic but happy schedule gets underway.
I'm doing beach cricket, swimming, table tennis and 10-pin bowling.
10-pin bowling and running and marching.
11-year-old Logan Heald received a heart transplant. 3-year-old Charlie O'Sullivan has what he calls a special kidney. 7-year-old Jack Campbell underwent his second heart valve transplant just 3 months ago. His mum says he's got more energy than ever.
Last year I played soccer and I got a trophy.
For other parents like Charlie's mum Sally, every day is cause for celebration.
It's been an emotional roller coaster. We're very, very fortunate. Charlie's really well. He's going to be 4 in November, and he loves life.
Why do you like basketball?
Because I'm going to be bigger.
And that's what these games are all about.
These are the faces of survivors.
2003 I was diagnosed with cancer.
I was diagnosed with prostate cancer some years ago and had the awful operation to have all the insides removed, and at this stage I'm brand new.
Hundreds lined the foreshore at Toronto this morning, gearing up their boats for the 7th Heaven Can Wait yacht race. The 24-hour charity regatta raises money for the New South Wales Cancer Council. Sean Lewicki founded the event in 2005 while he battled prostate cancer.
I made a bit of a bet with my boat that one day we'll get back out on the water.
And a plethora of supporters joined him. Last year, the event raised $40,000 for men's cancer research. And while the race and the message behind it may be serious, the mood here was much lighter.
How's the crew looking today?
Crews look mighty fine, yeah, especially our big bird.
The crew's making sure they packed the absolute essentials. And as the clock struck 11, they were off. Yachts, little moths, you name it.
These guys will battle it out for a gruelling 24 hours. The winner, the boat that can do the most laps of the lake in that time.
They've got a mere 17 hours to go. Stephanie Jeans, NBN News.
I'm not drinking any of the wine yet, so I'm just eating the food, and the food's beautiful. The wife says the wine's nice as well, so that's good.
Maitland's Minda Warriors not only won the New South Wales Aboriginal knockout last year, they beat Queensland's Southern Dingoes to take out the Australian title as well. Today they made the perfect start in the defence of their state crown with a big win over Redfern, Jay Smith with a first half double. After the break, Reg Saunders got in on the act with a double of his own. Fielding several new faces, coach Ronald Griffiths believes his troops can go back-to-back.
A little bit scratchy early on, mate, but yeah, I mean, first game we brought a few guys in, so starting to find their rhythm, and the back end of the half, we started to find what we really wanted.
One of their biggest threats will come from close to home. The Newcastle Yowies didn't make a tackle this morning because of a forfeit, denying fans the chance to see big names Tamana Tahu and identical twins Reece and Travis Robinson. Central Newcastle's James Livick will be familiar to real NRL supporters, but it's a fit and healthy Albert Kelly who's sure to turn heads as he looks to resurrect his career on the Gold Coast.
I'm in talks with Titans at the moment. I'm flying up next week and probably sort something out up there as well, and yeah, career looks on the up.
Sacked by the Sharks and Knights, Kelly acknowledges his third club has to be the charm.
Taking a full steam ahead this time and no stopping, yeah.
Organisers of the Aboriginal Knockout are expecting around 15,000 fans over the weekend, with the finals to be held on Monday.
Distraught relatives arrive at Lake Liddell this morning, desperate for news, still clinging to hope that Dylan Spicer is alive. The 13-year-old from Barnsley went missing in rough waters late yesterday afternoon after the rubber dinghy he and a friend were in capsized.
They were very close to the shore until the wind got them and took them out to the lake.
A 14-year-old boy was rescued. Dylan hasn't been seen since. An extensive search by divers, the SES and a police helicopter today failed to find any sign of the teen. And by this afternoon, all hope had faded.
Given that the young fellow hasn't been seen since 3 p.m. yesterday afternoon, we are expecting the worst, and we don't believe we will find him alive at this stage.
Dylan had been on holidays with his friend's family. Campers say yesterday's conditions were wild.
Strong winds was blowing tents and everything.
A complete contrast to today. Yesterday's conditions were treacherous. It was windy, the water was choppy, and police say the boys weren't wearing life jackets. The search continues. Stephanie Jeans, NBN News.
This event allows us to celebrate the victory of life, really.
So far, it's been no Mad Monday on our roads. Are you expecting any headaches this afternoon or anything?
Oh, I've got a headache from last night, but that's about it. No, I'm fine, mate. I reckon it'll be all right. No dramas at all.
Motorists pulling in for a breather, keeping Lions Club volunteers on their toes.
Coffee, yeah, cordial there for the kiddies. Hot chocolate. A lot of them want a beer, but they don't get it.
It's one of the busiest periods of the year for police, but for once, the figures are good.
We've had no recorded fatalities in the North region. Our injury collisions are down and our number of people injured in those collisions are down by 50% compared to the same time last year.
So far it's been pretty good. Yeah, there's been no problems. I haven't seen any crashes or anything, so yeah, it's been so far so good.
How's the traffic been so far?
The traffic's all right, mate, yeah.
And for those yet to hit the road, police have reinforced that simple message.
Take a break every 2 hours, use the rest stops that are provided along the way. Usually we probably expect delays to around about 9 o'clock tonight before the traffic starts thinning out. As you know, obviously the bulk of the traffic will be coming through this afternoon and this evening.
Paddy Kilmurray, NBN News.
Parliament has passed the compensation bill for victims of overseas terrorism, but it's not retrospective. So our 2005 victims from Newcastle will not benefit from that.
It's been one action-packed long weekend with something for just about everyone. They were all revved up in King Edward Park as the 55th annual Matara Hill Climb roared into action. Rugby league lovers legged it to Raymond Terrace for the state Aboriginal knockout, where 15,000 fans cheered on 2,500 players, while a host of heroic athletes have been scattered across the region for the 13th Australian Transplant Games. 700 athletes and supporters are in town until October 6, celebrating the success of organ donation and transplants. And for those who'd had their fill of sport, the Matara Festival provided a change of pace with its Pets on the Park Day at Newcastle Foreshore. Poochers strutted their stuff on stage for the parade, while youngsters went behind the farm gate to meet a brood of baby animals.
Pets on the Park Day is always a massive day for Newcastle. They love it. They love their animals. They love to be involved.
Canine companions who play a vital role for our Defence Forces also took centre stage. The working dogs and handlers demonstrated their military might and rigorous training. And if all that made you a little weary, the chair ride was the perfect place to while away the last of the long weekend. The Matara Festival continues until Sunday.
We were all very young then, Paul. I mean, I was just a mere stripling and gorgeous-looking guy of 24 at that time. God, don't things change. And of course, it was full of beautiful Scottish songs, happy music. We had a great accordion player called John MacDonald. The artists included the Calljoys and the Sandy Scotts and the Four Kinsmen, Moira Bridie, all the people of that era who were extremely well known. And when the station could see that I could put this together for them, they kind of said, yeah, let's go ahead and do it, and we did.
When you're a self-funded team, race week means long hours of preparation, at times 16 a day. Fortunately, the Novocastrian Motorsport boys now have their routine down to a fine art.
We don't have the best of equipment, but we're in the top 10 of the championship, and considering the equipment, we're really happy with that.
To warm up for round 5, Drew Russell, his brother Aaron and rookie driver Michael Hector headed to Wakefield Park at Goulburn for some mid-season practice. It's clear no one wants to look bad at Mount Panorama.
There's no track in the country that's like Bathurst. I'd rank it among the best in the world, so it's definitely the biggest of the year.
Drew currently sits 10th in the development series, but won't be satisfied until he earns a place in the main event.
My lifelong dream, I've been driving since I was 3, racing since I was 10, so I want to be a V8 Supercar champion. That's what I work my whole life towards.
Meanwhile, Mudgee's Doug Barry has wrapped up the state hill climb title after finishing runner-up at the Matara round late yesterday. Mid-North Coast driver Dave Morrow took out the event and backed up today to claim a win in the Tri Challenge. Amy Marcella from Rathmines finished both days in third. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. The grand final was only a minute old when Warriors forward Reg Saunders produced something special. The Yowies hit back through a league legend, Tamana Tahu. Approaching the 20-minute mark, Cody Walker restored Minderibba's 6-point buffer. But this seesawing battle had plenty more in store. The human wrecking ball was playing his part before comeback kid Albert Kelly gave the Yowies their first lead. Warriors coach Ronald Griffiths laid down the law, and clearly Darcy Ettridge was listening. Once again, the Yowies found a reply through an NRL star. A try to Shannon Tanner put the Warriors back in it, but James Livick would have the final say. For Tamana Tahu, the win was his first in 15 years of trying.
I've won an NRL Grand Final, played for my countries in both codes, played Origin, and I get to tick this off. I only got a few more years in footy. I've been playing since I was 16.
One male believed to be in his 50s was the driver of the utility who worked for a local hunter business in the Newcastle area.
The opposition leader arrived in the Hunter looking to blow off a little steam about the carbon tax.
For the 100 or so workers at this business, they are being slugged at home and at work.
Tony Abbott took some time to shoot the breeze with WeatherTech's workers. But his carbon tax message was no laughing matter. The company, a compressed timber products manufacturer, lays claim to having a negative carbon footprint, since its product contains more carbon removed from the atmosphere than what is emitted during its production. WeatherTech says its ability to expand into new markets is now greatly limited as a result of the tax.
We just have to tighten our belt a bit more. We were a reasonably profitable business and now we're not quite so profitable, which is not going to help us to expand and develop new products.
This is a business which is being savaged by the carbon tax.
The Hunter-based climate change minister sees it differently.
Businesses in the Hunter are generally doing quite well. They are able to pass on the modest cost increases from the carbon price in their prices.
Paddy Kilmurray, NBN News.
The Liberals came to town with two Abbotts in tow. Jamie Abbott, no relation to the federal leader, organised Tony Abbott's visit to talk tactics.
The number one thing that we stand for is to scrap the carbon tax, reduce the red tape on small business and to reduce the unemployment levels here in Newcastle.
Got to do the right thing, mate. It's not just about votes.
Even though they do win elections.
We will be giving the Labor Party the fight of its life here in the Hunter.
It's an indication that Tony Abbott really doesn't know this area too well at all. And I think Labor has a very proud record to stand on.
I think people will make their decision very wisely.
Labor's held the seat of Newcastle since Federation, but with local manufacturing bearing the brunt of a tricky economic climate, the coalition's confident of significant swings come polling time.
I think a lot of people have given up on the Labor Party in the Hunter region, and I suspect that Sharon Grierson has sensed that people feel that the Labor Party has let them down.
Newcastle Council's already seen its own political change. Developer turned Lord Mayor Jeff McCloy keen to get down to political business.
He had a few ideas of council maybe coming into the party and buying some of the state-owned land and developing it ourselves.
A fast rail link to Sydney, as well as Newcastle being home to the state's second international airport, got a mention, as did a push to have victims of terrorism compensation payments made retrospective.
We're talking about people whose lives have been turned upside down, in some cases ruined irretrievably.
Kath Landers, NBN News. At 62, Max Moore is now fit and healthy. A liver transplant not only saved his life, but changed it dramatically.
Now I'm a personal trainer and I do everything I can to support and help other people. I look at it this way, I've been given a wonderful gift and now it's my duty to do everything I can to pay back.
Today, his hard work paid off, with Max presented with a bronze medal in the 50 metres freestyle by a fellow Hunter athlete, who has a few accolades of her own, Paralympic swimmer Maddie Elliott.
No matter if they're young
or old, they still get a chance in these games. So it's not how good you are or how bad you are, it's just to have fun.
This year's transplant games have attracted rivals from across the country, among them Queensland's Kate Backhouse and Samantha George from Sydney. After battling cystic fibrosis for 25 years, Kate finally underwent a double lung transplant 6 years ago, while Samantha was given a new liver at the age of 6. Now both are enjoying making a mark in the pool.
It's a second chance at life, you know. I'm not supposed to be standing here in front of you right now, and all of us, the people behind us, you know, aren't supposed to either, but we were given a gift, you know, from someone, a selfless choice.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
Nine years after the daring dambuster raids in 1943, Britain continued to develop new and more powerful weapons. By 1952, the World War II Avro Lancaster bombers used over Germany had evolved into the Lincoln design. And it was these aircraft, flown by Australian Air Force crews, which were involved in a weapon test that would make the dambuster bomb seem like a toy. 7 years after America destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the British had developed their own atomic bomb, and they tested it not in England but off the coast of Western Australia. The test was carried out in the Montebello Islands off the WA coast, and Aussie air crews were ordered to fly through the atomic dust clouds to gather samples. The Lincoln bombers were fitted with underwing canisters to capture the toxic dust, and Newcastle Air Force veteran Ian Wilson was part of the ground crew based at Amberley.
My job was as a engine fitter or flight mechanic, then you become an engine fitter, was to decontaminate the aircraft, and in some cases take the cylinders off which picked up the breakdown of the clouds as they left the explosion, as they drifted across the country. Well, when we removed them, we wore khaki shorts and just our ordinary overalls. And when the British scientists come to pick them up, they had all the protection gear on like spacemen.
Ian says he was never issued with protective clothing and believes the exposure has caused lasting health effects.
Your overalls and shorts would go next to the washing machine, and my son, being 18 months old, would be crawling over the top of them and so on. Anyhow, to cut a long story short, my eldest son had a kidney removed for cancer, and my wife had a kidney removed for cancer.
The British carried out 3 major nuclear tests at Montebello and 9 more in the South Australian outback. These maps show the estimated fallout.
It came in between Dubbo, in across between Gosford and Sydney at 10,000 feet, about 2 miles up. And it was like a miniature Chernobyl, but unfortunately people in New South Wales got it in their milk, their meat and everything else, and that's what damage it does after that.
American servicemen directly involved in their country's nuclear testing were compensated with large cash payments. Our men were issued with a participation medal by the Australian government, but no compensation. A dark chapter in our history that began 60 years ago today.
He took centre stage in Sydney this morning. This afternoon he drew a crowd to Jets training back home. The big question is, will Emile Heskey take the field against Adelaide?
I hope so. We're taking it day by day, trained yesterday, got to go back and train now. We're just building up for that.
Despite the extra attention, Heskey says he no longer gets nervous.
First 5-6 years, I had nerves going into games, but now it's just, can't wait to get started.
Although he's going to need a video session or two before round one.
What do you know about Adelaide?
Nothing.
As he continues to get to know his new teammates, Heskey admits he's already been impressed. The feeling is clearly mutual.
He's a great personality to have. He's a really good professional. So I think bringing him into the side's beneficial for the younger players in our team.
Known more for his ability to set up goals rather than score them, the striker isn't about to become selfish.
I don't fancy changing anything. I've managed to win cups, managed to go to 2 World Cups, 2 European Championships, doing the same thing, so why change now?
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. "24 hours after winning the New South Wales Aboriginal knockout with the Yowies, James Livick was still enjoying the spoils. The Newcastle forward had an eventful day, 10 in the bin, a game-changing hit, as well as the winning try. His post-game celebration was one to remember as he got revenge against Minderibba, the team that beat his former side, the Queensland Dingoes, in the national final.
I had mixed emotions. I didn't really know what to, do at the time, like whether to cry or run to the boys or jump over and, hug the crowd.
Livick burst onto the scene with Central this season, quickly becoming a cult hero. He turned plenty of heads, including that of Knights assistant Rick Stone, who's keen to see James in red and blue.
They're giving me a shot, and I'm going to take it with both hands, and I'm going to give it all I can and get out there and show the community what players like myself can do.
Currently tipping the scales at 137 kilos, Livick has been approached to train with Anthony Mundine, with the aim of trimming down to 120.
He said, I want you to be fit. I'll make you the fittest. I'll make you the best. He said, and he's a man. He knows he knows what's going on.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.